Hey everyone, let's talk a little bit about developing a claim when you're writing about literature. So a claim is a term you're probably already familiar with. You've seen the term before, thesis statement, and our claim is an argument term. So in formal argument, instead of calling it a thesis statement, we call it a claim, and this is a very specific term that means that we're creating an argument. We're taking a stand on a topic. Thesis statement may not have an argument, but a claim definitely does. So what do we mean by it's argumentative? Well, this means that there are multiple points of view on a topic. So there are people who agree with you and people who disagree with you. If if you can't think of any reason why somebody would disagree with you on your claim, then it's not a claim. It's not an argument. Claims are not questions. They're not. They're not. No, no questions. All right. It's always a statement. All right. So how do you make a claim? Well, this really depends on what the instructions for the assignment are. You'll generally be given some sort of guidelines. There are lots of different guidelines that you could have for a literature essay, but these are three different ones here that we'll look at examples of. Are you being asked to examine a work? All right. What do I mean by work? Anytime you see this term from a professor, they mean the literature itself. Or you can also see the word text sometimes. The text can refer to the poem, the story, the play, the novel, whatever it is you're discussing in class. So you may be asked to examine a work from the perspective, and it's almost always from a perspective. You're looking at the work through a particular lens, and we'll talk more about this later. Are you being asked to examine a work from the perspective of a specific literature movement or tradition? So if you're in a survey course in particular, you'll be moving often. Some instructors teach survey courses by theme, but you'll often be moving through a course chronologically and different literature movements and traditions as you go through the historical aspect of the course come in fashion. So you'll look at a particular literature movement, your instructor will tell you all about it and what the features of that movement are, and you go from there. You might be asked to examine the work from the perspective of a critical theory. So you'll learn about these critical theories in the later lecture. These critical theories come up in all kinds of courses, not just literature. And a couple of examples are myth criticism or Marxism. So again, you're going to look at the work through the lenses of one of these two literary theories or critical theories. And finally, of our three examples, are you being asked to examine the work from the perspective of a specific social issue that the story may illustrate, or the poem or the play? So you're looking at social and historical topics. So I've got three examples here of claims, and then we'll talk about each one individually. So you'll see the claim includes the author's name, the title of the story, and the point that you're making. So Kate Chopin, that's the author, her Story of an Hour, that's the name of the story, is an example of naturalism. Louise Mallard, this is a character in the story, is seen as a sacrificial lamb, that's my topic. That's what I'm claiming. In Chopin, the author, Story of an Hour. So all those features are there. Finally, I start with my topic, gender bias. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Is evident in Chopin, the author's Story of an Hour. That's the story, all right? And you'll notice that each one of these is formatted as a sentence, a statement with a period at the end, no question marks. You'll also notice, and we'll talk about this later, short stories are formatted in quotation marks and with the proper words capitalized. We'll talk more about that later. So let's look at these three individually. So what I've done here at the heading of each one of these slides is I've taken the claim and turned it into a title. The title of your essay should be closely related to your claim. So this title might be Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour as Naturalism. No period, no anything, right? This is my title. But by looking at the title, I'm pretty sure what the claim is, right? Your title and your claim should look very, very similar. So this claim is about the entire story. We're not looking at a particular character. We're looking at the whole story. I'm arguing that it's an example of naturalism. Naturalism is a literary movement from the late 19th and early 20th century that we'll talk about later. And the essay that supports this claim will explain the characteristics of naturalism that the student would have learned, characteristics of naturalism, and how they appear in the story itself. So you'd be looking at examples of naturalism characteristics in the story. My second title, Louise Mallard as Sacrificial Lamb in Chopin's Story of an Hour. So again, it looks just like my claim did, but now it's set up as a title. So for this one, we're looking at a specific character. We're not looking at all the characters. We're looking at Louise Mallard in particular. And we're looking at this religious historical term. It comes from myth criticism. We'll look at what a sacrificial lamb is, and in the essay we would explain that term and explain how Louise Mallard serves the sacrificial lamb. In our final example, I'm looking again at a specific topic in the entire story. So I'm looking at the sociological topic of gender bias. I would explain what that means, and I would explain how it appears in the entire story of an hour. So I hope these three are enough to get you started.